Welcome back, everybody, to Cool's Reviews. Today, me and Sam checked out The Final Trial of Billy the Kid by Michael Anthony Giudice. Now, you guys should recognize that name since we did previously do a Cool's interview with Michael, and he's actually going to be returning to our channel here for March for a special bracket, of which this film is a part of. And so we wanted to watch and make sure we had the full knowledge of what this film comprised of. And so, as usual, my name is Keegan, and like I said,
I'm Sam.
So what is this film about? Well, it's kind of like a courtroom drama. Think like a 12 Angry Men type of movie. But it pits John Miller and Brushy Bill Roberts against Pat Garrett. Now, when we get to spoilers and talk more about that, you'll see it quickly divulges one way. But yeah, I mean, pretty much without spoilers, is there anything else you want to add?
It's definitely a drama, that's for sure. Makes you question a lot about the history itself.
Now, what would you say about, like, the acting? How did you feel about the acting here?
I mean, they did really good for a TV drama, that's for sure.
Yeah, and when talking to Michael, I think it's Thomas Fears who plays Brushy Bill. I think he did an excellent job. But at the same time, we found out he was from Denver, so we thought that was really cool. Or at least he was living in Denver or something of the sorts when they made this one. So that was kind of cool. Just that Colorado connection. But I thought he did an excellent job as Brushy Bill Roberts.
Nah, he definitely did.
I felt very confident telling Brushy's side of the story. And then when they started questioning him, he played very well as, like, getting... what is that? Frazzled in a way. Just...
What is the correct word? Like flustered?
Flustered, yeah. Just getting flustered and just getting distraught towards the end. So I thought that was really good. And then Kelly Kidd plays Pat Garrett. So another take on Pat Garrett. We've seen quite a few now. But as me and Sam are watching this, we're like... He kind of reminded us of our friend Scotty. Just like his mannerisms and how he talked. I was like, oh man, that could almost be like Scotty.
Oh, shit.
If you're wondering why the camera just moved, it was not Ghost, it was a cat.
There was a cat.
Cat involved.
Cat playing with the tripod.
But yeah, Ryan, who plays Aldine, I thought did really good. Both attorneys, I thought did good in here. So yeah, I think acting was good. The musical tones, they were brief and usually played during like a bigger moment. You saw it at the end when they were giving like their verdicts, and then you also saw it at parts, I guess, during them telling their stories. Little brief glimpses. So before we get into spoilers, we'll just kind of rate and recommend it so you guys won't be spoiled if you haven't seen it. So Sam, what would you rate this and would you recommend it?
I'll probably do a 6 out of 10. I mean, I would recommend it. I just don't like... Not a big fan of like super big like dramas, so that's the only reason I have it like kind of low. Other than that, it was really good. Yeah,
for me, I definitely recommend it. I'd say probably about a 7 out of 10. It could be hard, like Sam said, for people if you want more than just one pretty much location. So again, like the 12 Angry Men comparison, or you know, you could even think Reservoir Dogs to an extent, where they're just in that one little warehouse. But overall, I think it's good. Gives some good information, and definitely at least helps you want to learn more about Brushy Bill or Billy the Kid, or vice versa. So now you've been warned, we are going into spoilers. So if you haven't seen this and don't want to be spoiled, click away now. So like I said at the beginning, there was a shift almost right away, and that was with John Miller, who just didn't show up for it, and then his attorney was like, no, we're just like gonna pull out of it. And that's really because, I mean, if you look at it, there's not really any evidence that he was Billy the Kid, and John Miller himself never said he was Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
It was always other people, and especially one author in particular that did.
And he just always denied it. He was just like, no, I'm not.
But Sam did bring up a good point. It would have been funny if he was there and he was just like, I never said it. I'm not Billy the Kid.
Right.
Right, that would have been funny.
It would have added a little bit of comedy in there where he was just like, I never said I was Billy the Kid. I don't know why you guys keep assuming this.
You guys keep saying it, and I'm definitely not Billy the Kid. But yeah, then it just kind of goes over. It tells Brushy's side of the story, which I think we've talked about a ton on this channel. But at least his story is Billy Barlow was killed in his place, and then there was a big gunfight. He was shot in the jaw, losing a tooth, shot in the ribs, and then like grazed his skull, knocked him out. And if you read his story, he gets saved. Like, I guess the deputies and Garrett just didn't go after him after he fell for whatever reason, and then he said a Hispanic lady pulled him into the house right there, and just like they gave up searching for him, I guess. And obviously, if you read any of the accounts from anyone that was in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, no one said there was a big gunfight. People said there was 2, possibly 3 gunshots. The third one is been usually attributed to ricochet. So the first shot kills Billy, and Pat, kind of scared, not sure if he got him or not, shoots again, and it ricocheted off the wall, and then when it hit the adobe again, it made the loud noise. It also brings up a lot of, I guess, not a lot, but some of the detractions from Brushy's story, as far as his birth date, depending on who he told, changed. Including, like, if you look at any of the census records, which they didn't really mention in here, but because I've read a certain book that Sam knows, I've read well into the Brushy story. And if you read any of the census records, you can really follow him from like 2 years of age to his death. Moving around, his 3 or 4 wives he had. He usually lived in or around Hamilton, Texas. Buffalo Gap, he moved towards the end, and he lived in Arkansas for a little bit at one point. Oh, the affidavits, where a majority of the people who claimed he was Billy the Kid never met like the historical Billy the Kid. So Billy the Kid before the shootout of 1881, right, before he was killed. And so it brings up the good point of how then would they actually know who Billy the Kid was if they never met who Billy the Kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to Pat Garrett, who really, like, especially when I was talking to Michael, we can't really pinpoint when this whole like shift of viewpoint on Pat started. Most likely it was around the time that a lot of these like fake Billy the Kid or Billy the Kid hoaxers had come out, where people started to be like, maybe he lied or something. But the majority of it, like, people just thought he was, yeah, he had his problems. He wasn't perfect like everybody, but at least he followed the law and stuff. But here in the story, it brings up just some maybe contradictions, which, if you, like, for me, I always kind of read into, there's an old newspaper article which questioned if Pat Garrett had actually, like, captured Paulita and used Paulita almost as bait and then killed Billy that way. Because if you know a lot of the letters and, like, notes Pat Garrett was getting, he knew for at least a couple weeks that he was in Fort Sumner.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a newspaper article that was like, yeah, they tied up Paulita, and then Billy was actually killed in Paulita's room. And then they kind of changed the story just so, I guess, save face for the Maxwell family. And honestly, I'm not against that theory. Like, it makes sense. Like, he obviously didn't leave New Mexico. He stayed in New Mexico for a reason. Depending on who you talk to, the reason always is a girl, but it changes on who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Paulita's, like, the most talked about one. Most people think it was Paulita. And so, if they knew he was in Fort Sumner, I wouldn't put it past him maybe using Paulita as bait.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so maybe that's where some of the contradiction comes from. They also bring up in here, like, how long it took to get the reward money. About a year. But they don't let, like, Pat tell why. He's just like, I've had my answer, just no more. But in like truthfulness, it was because it was like a private citizen reward that they had to then transfer to a territorial reward, and then they had to actually make sure they had all the burden of proof that it was Billy the Kid before they could give him the $500. And so, yeah, I guess that explains that the end of the verdict is Brushy Bill or John Miller were not Billy the Kid. They didn't say 100% that Pat Garrett's story was like perfect.
Accurate.
They said, but it leaned majority towards him, so that's why.
At least for that thing. But if it was investigated further, he would be in like the hot seat as well. Because there was instructions to not look at the body itself, which seems a little bit weird if you're trying to like.
There wasn't
show it.
instructions.
Well, he didn't want people to look at it, from what that was kind of saying. So that does make it question on how accurate he actually was.
But there was a current.
And he killed like
coroner's
two other
jury.
people, thinking it was Billy the Kid.
Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty notorious that he killed Tama Folliard and Charlie Beaudry in the hunt for Billy. Now, that also is like, well, he's killed two, why would it matter if he killed a third one, right?
I mean, true, but like, assuming that they're all Billy the Kid is a little weird. Just be like, it's Billy!
But at the same
Shoot
time...
first question later and then being like, fuck, I fucked up!
But at the same time, at least Tom
For
and Charlie...
law-abiding.
Like, Tom and Charlie were part of the Regulators. So they were all wanted at the same stuff, just Billy kind of got the brunt of it, even though, for the most part, he wasn't the leader of the Regulators.
Mhm.
And then, you know, when they were coming down and they killed, you know, Pat killed Tom, it was snowing. So you can see visibility there. How he killed Charlie is even perhaps more forgivable because they had actually... Beaudry had either put on Billy's hat or put on one that looked extremely like Billy's hat. And so when he came out of the house, they were from a far enough distance, and he was wearing all the stuff that they couldn't see, and all they saw was the hat. That, in some stories, Charlie had told Pat to look out for. If you see this hat, then that's Billy. And so that's why he shot. So you can kind of see why he did that. One more thing they talked about in here, I guess, with Brushy was how in Brushy's story, he legit just rides out and doesn't kill Bob or Bell. Like Bob Ollinger and J.W. Bell, he didn't kill. He just rides out of town. We know for a fact he did. Like, perhaps one reason Brushy didn't say he did that is because then they could have hung him. But I guess at that time, too, I forget how the territorial laws, but I think it was only for 10 years. So I don't think they could have anyway, but I don't know. You don't want to indict yourself on something you didn't do, right?
Right.
So, going into spoilers, Sam, what are some things you want to talk about here?
Given I haven't done a lot of research on the Garrett's story, but like the definitive proof that he did kill Billy was just in his book. Through most accounts of history, even nowadays, like, your truth is only your truth because you won. So you could change it and alter it in any way, shape, or form. So having that as distinct proof really isn't proof, because you could just say you did something when in truth it didn't actually play out that way. That's kind of my spoiler. It's just like, well, his book is his only reason of like, here's Billy's life, and it's just like, I don't know if I can actually trust that. Because A, you were hunting him, and B, you could say whatever you want to put it in your favor when it couldn't be true at all. Makes me question if Old Henry was a legitimate thing.
You would think if, like, Billy actually did survive, he would just go kind of live off the grid like Old Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to be doing everything Brushy said. Because Brushy, he worked for the Pinkerton. Like, you would think, why would a wanted criminal go work for the Pinkertons? He worked for he rode with the Rough Riders. He fought with, like, all these different famous battles. It's more fantastical. Think like Forrest Gump, but like ramped up to 35 out of 10. Like that's how unbelievable it is. And definitely, I don't believe Brushy Bill was Billy the Kid. Now, I've been to Heiko, I've been to Hamilton, I've seen at least where the public grave of Brushy Bill is. He was buried further back in the cemetery in like the poor part, like the paupers. We've done a couple episodes where we've like looked at like pauper graves and stuff. But it's not marked, so they just have kind of like a main grave up front, so people can go visit it. His original headstone did read Ollie Roberts, and now when you visit it, it says William Henry Roberts, because Ollie Roberts is very easily found in census records, so I guess you don't want it to say that. But the people were really nice at the museum in Heiko. And I still say if you want to go visit it, go visit it. It's still part of history. It's still fascinating to check out, and perhaps we'll get back there shortly. And we'll definitely be talking about this one soon. So stay tuned to our channel. We will be revisiting this one shortly, as well as Old Henry and The Kid and all the other Billy the Kid movies we've talked about. So just stay tuned. We have a fun project. I don't want to spoil too much, but stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it turns out. Again, I'm trying not to give it away, so I'm just going to end before I say too much. But if you want to see more Cools reviews, click that link over me. If you want to see more about what we're doing here at Cools Paranormal, click that link over Sam. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe.
And switch that notification bell from personalized to all if you want to be updated on all of our latest content.
And let us know, have you watched the final trial of Billy the Kid? And what's your take on Brushy Bill and John Miller?